StereoKit is for C# developers, especially those that don't have a lot of mixed reality experience. I really designed StereoKit to be very easy to learn. So like, I always imagine like, what if I was teaching this to students? Like, what would they think of this API? How difficult would it be for them to learn? But at the same time, it's also a very powerful API as well. So while it's easy to learn, it's also very expressive. So the idea is like, you know, if you're a C# developer from enterprise or like not from necessarily game development or anything like that, you can just dive into this, learn it really easily, and start getting productive really fast. So it also helps to, like, because of the iteration time that StereoKit has, it's very fast to like just go through, try things, experiment a little bit. So it's also really good for rapid prototyping and iterating on your designs. So hopefully StereoKit is for everybody, but I focus mostly on these people who don't necessarily have experience with mixed reality before.
So, hello today, and I'm just checking why I don't see Michael, but Michael can hear me.
I can, yes.
There
There we
are. Yeah. It's just the first time is a little bit checking out how everything works, that I think that I got it now. Michael, welcome to this stream. Good to have you here today. Michael is co-founder of XRTech, and today he's going to talk about assisted intelligence, and I'm kind of curious what that actually is. So, Michael, I will leave the stream for you now. You can share your screen. You already did. I'll put it in the stream, and then you can start presenting from there. So give me a second, and then the floor is yours.
No problem, thank you. All right. I see myself. Now let's go to full screen. All right, there we are. So hello, everyone. My name is Michael Kaldebach. As Rudy was saying, I am the co-founder of XRTech, a company that focuses on what is next for augmented and assisted reality. Beyond the traditional use cases of remote assistance or shoulder coaching, however you want to call it, and sort of work assistance. Why should you believe anything I have to say in this space? Anyone can start a company and say whatever they want in order to convince the market. But I do have some street credibility. Prior to forming this company, I was the global head of extended realities for Royal Dutch Shell. Did that with a lot of enthusiasm for the last 5 years. And in that role, I was able to deploy a lot of these technologies and get a lot of frontline expertise. How do you take this technology as an idea into testing, into deployment? So from that background, XRTech was founded, where we were running into the barriers that a lot of the companies were going to be running into or maybe they are running into them right now. Again, reiterating what is next once you have deployed these sort of straightforward use cases of remote assistance and work assistance. How can you get more value out of the technology? How can you convince the frontline workers that they should bring this new technology rather than the existing technology of the tablets and the phone? What does it take to take the next step and fully leverage the technology? Now, today I'm not here to do a sales story. This is more generic. I want to educate the market. I want to share the expertise that I've gathered. I'm going to be focusing on the machine vision aspect, but I do want to stress that there are multiple areas where it comes together, ranging from artificial intelligence, situational awareness, and machine vision. I truly believe it is at the intersection of these various innovations or emerging technologies that we have reached that point where we can bring it together. And when it comes together, that's where the true return on investment is, the true value and the true solution for the end users. But let's start with the problem. Always increasingly important to start with the why. And you see across the industries, obviously I'm a little bit biased towards the energy industry, having a significant background with that. But this is across the industries across the world where we see that companies are reducing their employee overhead, the boots on the ground, so to speak. They are in favor of digitalization, removing those resources, say, okay, we have new systems, new tools that should be able to make you more efficient, thus we can do with less. We are also seeing on the other side that workers are having to deal with more of these digital tools that are becoming more complex, managers having to deal with increasingly complex work processes. So in that interplay between less people available, the people have to do more, you start seeing problems on the work floor. You start seeing that safety procedures are not being followed as thoroughly because you have limited time, limited resources, and it is in human nature to put on the blinkers and say, okay, I'm focused on my task. And when you are that focused because you have to perform, your peripheral vision, your risk normalization is not as efficient as it should be. And that has potential to lead to serious consequences. The same is to be said for the fundamental rule: the less people there are on site, the less colleagues, the less expertise you have available in order to tap into. If you are trying to do something, it is more difficult to get the knowledge you need, so the knowledge just in time. And then a fundamental outcome of that is, if you're looking at a reduced on-site workforce, that also means that you're going to have longer lead times, getting the expertise to go from point A to point B, capturing, figuring out the root cause analysis. Everything gets slowed down. And obviously, we're introducing more and more tools from digitalization and other areas to make sure we assist. But as a human, we can only do so much. And fundamentally, that is the playing field that we started looking at. Okay. This is a beginning. We recognize that. Like I said, these are various emerging technologies that have become available to us. But fundamentally, how can we unburden the frontline workers to get that information just in time, and making sure that they can focus on the value-adding activities, but without losing that extremely important peripheral knowledge of situational awareness? What is happening around you? What is impacting you? What are the variables you need to take into account when you are making these decisions at the front line? So one of the things that we have done is we've looked at, okay, we have this relatively new hardware, head-mounted and or tablets. It doesn't necessarily matter that much, but these are extremely sensor-rich platforms. And utilizing all of these sensors, we can push that into a cloud environment and understand basically, where are you? Where is the device? Where is the frontline worker in terms of in the asset, in terms of where in the world, but fundamentally also what is around you. Now, the where you are is relatively straightforward. We have amazing technologies such as GPS, global positioning satellites. We have Wi-Fi triangulation, and in a lot of cases, industries have moved towards Bluetooth and or LoRaWAN. So the positioning of where you are, there are a myriad of opportunities that you can use to say, okay, let's do location determination. The what is around you, that is slightly more tricky. It sort of depends on how far along you are in your journey with a digital twin. But fundamentally, the devices that we use offer us an ability to understand the surrounding. So you have existing knowledge. Let's say it is a 2D plot plan of your site. And these are generally augmented with information like, okay, this is an emergency exit. These are where my fire extinguishers are. But we can also use the camera to understand, what am I looking at? We use the microphone to understand, okay, what is the noise readings? Where are you? All of these factors combined help us understand what is happening around you. To put that into a different perspective, because I mentioned the microphone, and people are always thinking about extended realities as being such a visual tool. But if you are working in a factory environment and there is a truck backing up behind you, these are generally loud, noisy environments, the microphone is very suited to pick up the small beeping noise. It's actually not small, but in the background noise, it can get lost, of a truck backing up. It's these kind of triggers that can help us understand, hey, the machine has detected the truck backing up. We know that behind you is a truck. And when you have that information of where you are, plus what is around you, is basic maths, then we know what is important to you. And that is the beginning of saying, okay, how can we bring that information just in time? What is important for you, where you are, and when you are there? None of these technologies should be looked at as a silo. These are an end-to-end process. And I have borrowed from my previous employer a publicly available, to be clear, visualization of how does the average digitalization lifecycle go. It starts on the left side in the blue circle about collecting data, where you have various methods of collecting data. You have fixed cameras, CCTV, drones, other forms of robots, wearables, tablets, mobile phones, you name it. All of that is collecting data, which you then centralize, you store it in the public cloud. And that's where you have the opportunity to run various new artificial intelligence, various machine learning, machine vision algorithms. But it doesn't stop there. That just gives you data. Data needs to be transformed into information. You need to do something with the data. You need to have what we call actionable insights from that in order to, like I said again, support the decision making. Now, there are various technologies, IoT, digital twin, machine vision. It all plays a role here. But today I wanted to focus on the machine vision because we are at this crossroad with the technology evolution within XR, where the devices are becoming smaller, the onboard capabilities are becoming more powerful. So let's look at machine vision and what it can do. And I'll also share some examples down the line of what we do with that kind of data. But fundamentally, I'm also going to cut out the tablet and mobile phone. I'm going to focus on the head-mounted wearables because I do believe strongly that they offer this unique capability where, as a user, you have this camera literally strapped to your head. You don't actively need to use all of that software, but we can use that hardware. We can use those sensors while you are focused on your value-adding activity. How does that work in the field? How can you use machine vision in smart ways, but also in relatively basic ways? I've taken one of the use cases that we support, which looks at corrosion monitoring. Again, this is tagged as oil and gas as an example, but I want to stress that corrosion happens all over the place. This is very much cross-industry. Generally speaking, corrosion is monitored and sort of managed by experts. They have studied the field, they understand, they have the library of knowledge, and they are managing when do we need to do an intervention, when do we need to remove pipe cladding, when do we need to do maintenance on this. generally speaking, also, these subject matter experts are in high demand. So you tend to centralize their capabilities to a single location. And generally, that's also away from the site. So what we are able to do using machine vision is identify where it takes place. And because we know where this takes place, we also know that the device is near that location. So this is a rather sort of straightforward, basic example of machine vision where it doesn't necessarily use the computational side of machine vision, but it does use that ability to automatically and autonomously take these pictures. So when anyone, I don't care if it's a cleaner, the subject matter expert, or the owner of the asset, utilizes this technology and comes near the point of interest, as we call it, the device itself will take the pictures. These pictures, as you saw, are collated in the cloud and offered to these remote subject matter experts, where instead of them having to travel all over the world, spend a lot of time moving from site to site and being that physical presence, they are able to ingest that information and from that use their own creativity, their own knowledge framework to say, hey, in this site, I noticed that corrosion is changing color, the particulate is changing, whatever the expertise is that they use, in order to make decisions to say, okay, this has become serious, now I'll decide to fly over. Now, you see below a couple of figures that are from some of our clients. Don't look too closely at these figures because they're very much geared towards the oil and gas and not necessarily represent a subject matter expert in your industry. But it does highlight the key variables where this very straightforward way of machine vision can do reduce on-site presence, reduce sort of the non-productive time of an SME, and ultimately, and it is priceless because how can you put a price on the situation? If you are able to prevent these situations from escalating, it is a 10x factor that you are saving. Looking at a little bit more sort of frontline, we use the capabilities of machine vision to understand what is happening. Another use case is about the operational floor. Operations are always dynamics. Things change, you have your priorities, and humans tend to want to succeed. They tend to take shortcuts when it comes. So what this use case is, and this is an actual learning from incident, is you see in the picture, they have deposited two crosswalks, two beams to get from one platform to the other, but both of them are not secured. What we are able to do, because these folks are walking around with these head-mounted wearables, is identify this is in your path. We see these transition areas. We see that these gangplanks or boards are not secured properly as they should be, and we are able to warn the device wearer or even push that into alert systems, whatever safety sort of software you use, and say, stop, there is a potential hazard. This is what we have detected. Please take corrective action. In the case of this learning from incident, if you are to slip from this specific location, it is a fall of about 1.5 to 2 meters. I don't know what will happen. I'm not an HSSE expert, but I can assure you it's going to be painful and it's completely unnecessary. But it has to deal with that risk normalization that I spoke about. You have your priorities, you need to deliver, you need to perform. So you are taking these risks where normally you would not from an operational standpoint. So, and this is also what I wanted to highlight, what extended reality or the devices, in this case, the hardware, can offer above and beyond some of the current existing capability of, let's say, the fixed camera points, the CCTV camera points, where across the site, across a factory, you might have these fixed points. But like I said, operations are dynamic. It is a high likelihood that your fixed camera position would not be in the right area, would not be moving with the changing tides of a turnaround of a construction site. The fact that you have this mobile form factor, and very much this also is one of the unique selling cases, in my opinion, where we can entice people to say, hey, this is why you use a head-mounted display versus your phone tablet, because you're not going to be walking around with your phone while you're walking. But since you have this camera strapped to your head, we can take these pictures automatically and autonomously. This is not something that the user has to look out for, but we will help them. We will assist them in these kind of situations. And again, preventing this is priceless. We have limited time available today, but one of the key aspects that I also wanted to touch on is how does machine vision have a role in digital twins? And one of the things that we've seen, and I have to be very clear here, this is very much innovation for us as well, but we are already taking a lot of images as people are moving around their day-to-day activities on a site. Lately, talking about the last couple of 5 to 6 months, we have been experimenting with taking that data, taking those pictures, because we know where they were taken, what your orientation was, and pushing that into a neural radiance field. And this is fundamentally where we can have a game changer into operational digital twins, where if you are looking at, let's say a shift handover, and say, okay, we're going to be doing an activity, you can look at the sort of to be, the design, the visualization of how the asset is supposed to be. But I can guarantee you, the minute you deploy an asset, things get into operations, maintenance happens, things change, and updating the digital twin, or what we call evergreening, is not the highest priority. But with machine vision, and like I said, the ability to know where you are and what is happening around you, you can simply select the area that you're going to be working in, and we will, utilizing the latest images that were taken this week, this month, you choose, you can generate a environment that you can freely move around in that is approximate of what you're going to be doing. So aside from the sort of straightforward machine vision, there is a whole slew of capabilities looking into the future about difference detection, has piping being sort of changed, how is the environment looking now versus last month, last year, etc. So it's not just about hazard detection around keeping it safe, it is also about operational information. And again, reducing the burden on the frontline workers and rather giving them the tools to easily access these kind of digital informations. I think we've gone through it quite rapidly. Just wanted to say thank you everyone for showing up. I know this is going to be recorded as well. If at any time you're looking at this material, then you can find me over at my email address, michael.kaldenbach@xrtech.global. Any questions you have around the XR industry, happy to assist and happy to talk about this. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Michael, thank you for your presentation. Well, in the stream itself, there were no questions, but I have a few questions for you. So
thank you.
Hang on for a little while. So first of all, you were talking about cloud storage, and I can imagine that it's going to be a huge amount of data. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Well, it's good that you mentioned that, because that is actually not true. And it's one of the fallacies that we hear quite often when we talk about machine vision, that you are continuously looking out for, continuously recording, continuously saving. But it is important that you know where you are so that you can offer the information. I actually do have a backup slide, yes. So this is a great question. This is one of the visualizations that we do, and it highlights that exact need. This is a site. Instead of walking around here and recording pictures everywhere, these sort of geofences determine what is important for that location. So in this location, you might be wanting to look out for scaffolding tags. In this location, in the red one, it might be they're doing construction, so you want to look out for hard hats. each location have their own rules, and each rule will have its own sort of necessity for taking pictures. If you continuously do machine vision, it is the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. 99% of what you're going to be capturing is going to be irrelevant, and it would be a waste to store that. But like I said at the beginning, one of the variables for taking the next step is knowing what is around you. And I spoke about these points of interest. So as an example, here you have a fire extinguisher in the middle of the red field. Knowing that I am near that fire extinguisher, the device will automatically start taking pictures. Is that fire extinguisher there? Or what is the status of that fire extinguisher? So that only happens when you are proximate, when you are nearby. If you are here, it won't do that action. If you are here, it won't do that action. So by being smart about when do you do machine vision, you greatly reduce the storage necessity for these kind of capabilities. You, as a user, are in control. If you do want to build a massive library for whatever your use case is, you can instruct to do so. But I would caution against that. Still, in these day and age, data is not cheap, and you have to be a little bit more practical about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for that. But still, you take pictures at some point. So I can imagine that maybe privacy with big sites might be a challenge as well, especially for public clouds. So how do you handle that?
Again, a really great question. And us being a UK-based company, we adhered to GDPR, and it's something that we take very seriously. There are various ways of going around making sure that privacy is ensured. In the most fundamental way, you have control over the data. You can remove and delete it at any time. But more practically speaking, we do two things. The same machine vision where we detect, hey, do I see a hard hat? We also do we see a face? If we see a face, we automatically blur it. The client does not get access to the unfiltered version, but we mandate the security. The same goes with name badges. So a lot of uniforms in operations, they have names sort of written across the back. We will blur those automatically. There are instances where during an emergency, you want to make sure that you do identify who is this person that we are doing, but then you have your privacy impact assessment. We help companies draft the regulatory requirements to say, in these situations, you have access to the data. In most situations, it is protected, just to make sure that we are not impeding on anyone's privacy.
Okay. Well, thank you. Very clear answer on that, and very good that this is a very, very big point of attention, because working on big sites could be challenging in that way. I want to thank you for your presentation. Very clear presentation indeed, and well, I hope that you stick around in the chats for people that might want to talk to you on Discord. Other than that, thank you very much, and I'm going to start in the outro, and we're done for today. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Rudy.